There are among wrestlers and superstars who have appeared on GTS for numerous reasons. 1. They are trained athletes, while most of them have trained from pro wrestling schools. 2. They are friends with Grimm, of course. 3. They are entertaining you, especially fans and viewers watching. Some of them have been part of the wrestling business for years before appearing on GTS. However, when it comes to conflicts or personal situations that need to be handled, those wrestlers or superstars would end up either being written off or eventually disappeared. Understandably, there are more than just a few simple reasons why wrestlers and superstars would end up not coming back to GTS Wrestling. So today, once again, I will tell you one of the 5 former stars who will never return to GTS Wrestling. Before I start, let me remind you that I have already listed the superstars who won't be coming back to GTS, including Matt Castle, Matthias Glass, TJ Marconi, and MJF. There are times where former GTS stars who never spoke out about why they won't come back, so I guess I can tell you what they have done for GTS and why they won't come back to GTS Wrestling. So let's get on with it. And don't forget to click a like button and subscribe as we roll on to the 5 former stars who will never come back to GTS brand. Number 5. Mark Adam Haggerty. Mark Adam Haggerty is an openly gay ring announcer, broadcaster, manager, and occasionally wrestles in many independent promotions. You might have seen him on GTS when he was an occasional commentator for several matches on the program. One of his highlighted moments in GTS was during the war between GTS and AWE when he eliminated Philly Mike Swanson from the 16 wrestlers over the top rope Regal Rumble match, in which he won the food in the fridge briefcase. So let me get this straight. An occasional wrestler who is more of an announcer eliminated a pro wrestler from the top rope and ended up winning the opportunity that guarantees for the world title match in the future? Just WTF. He was arguably one of the worst holders to ever held the food in the fridge briefcase in this entire existence. So what's the point of booking him to win the briefcase when he's not even a full-time wrestler and never cashed in his briefcase for the world title? Such a wasted opportunity right there. And for those of you who don't know, Mark Adam also worked for MLW full-time until June 2020 when he was accused of sending explicit text messages to a minor kid on Instagram, which led to his release from the company. And you thought you would be expecting to see him working for GTS full-time after that. I don't think so, dude. There's no way that anybody from the GTS roster, especially Grimm himself, would ever want to work with this pedophile. Don't expect him to come back to GTS because I don't think there's anyone who would ever want to work with this pedophile. Number 4. Yes Way Jose. The man behind the gimmick, real name Jose Dukes, made his debut as Fake Monabo in late 2016 during the early era of GTS Wrestling when he won his first singles title, which was the Hardcore title. Well, that didn't last long after he dropped it to Landscaper. Only a couple of months later, at the GTS Regal Rumble, he entered a match which he ended up being confronted by the real Manabo, as we thought these two would end up having a rivalry to see who's the real Manabo. But nope, these two would end up forming a tag team known as the Manabros. Throughout his run with his partner Manabo, he ended up getting a loser belt twice and winning the Hardcore title. One of his biggest moments in GTS was when he and his partner won the tag team titles at Grimmania when he pinned Bruiser Bonifer in a 3-way tag team match. And then a month later, the Manabros would quietly disbanded as he abandoned the fake Manabo and ended up being known as Yes Way Jose, which is the parody of WWE's No Way Jose. I mean, who knew this gimmick would exist only because the man with the first name Jose would change the name to Yes Way Jose, in which case it suits his persona. He hasn't done much for the rest of his time in GTS in the remainder of 2017, and afterwards, he eventually disappeared. I remember rewatching GTS Wrestling many years ago and I still can't find why he disappeared himself from GTS. I can only tell that he wouldn't want to show up to GTS according to his friend the Wampus. However, I can tell you that he has a full-time job which probably prevented him from appearing on GTS. I could be wrong, but nonetheless, let's just call this an MIA. Number 3. Big Chico. First, we got a guy who loves to party, and now we got a big man who also loves to party. For those of you who are wondering, no, he's not behind the character of Giant Leather, mainly because we got Big Chico, who is probably inspired by the combination of Scotty 2 Hotty and Cleveland Brown. The only time you would see him is during the span between spring and summer of 2017. And that's all I have to say about Big Chico. The only reason why he hasn't been on GTS for like, what, 4 years? Let's still call this an MIA since he hasn't shown up on GTS and did not give us a single real reason why he has not shown up on GTS. Number 2. Draken, aka Fat Scalper, aka Shamu. Draken. Oh, hold up. That's Onslaught. Let me restart this. For those of you who have watched Grimm's Toy Show in the early days, you might remember Fat Scalper, who offered to scalp toys in one of Ebenezer Middlesdorf's toy hunt videos. He was part of the clown corps after being kidnapped and possessed by a bunch of clowns. Let me remind you that it's only good when you have a clown storyline for the first time, but never be as good when it comes to remaking those clown storyline like almost every year. Just like it will never be as good when you have the New World Order reunion for how many times? Especially NWO 2000 from WCW, NWO 2002 from WWE, and NWO dubbed it The Band 2010 from TNA. One of his highlight moments in his time in GTS was when Shamu, or no, not Shamu, Draken won the GTS Championship at Christmas Chaos in 2016, won the 6-man Hardcore Scramble match for the GTS Hardcore title at Grimmania in 2017, and for the second time, he would win the Hardcore title at GTS Quadruple Crown Tournament in 2017. Sadly, I don't know if anyone remembers, but he won the YouTube title when he defeated Doo-Hop on a random episode of GTS, but only to lose it when Doo-Hop immediately cashed in his golden Easter egg to reclaim his YouTube title. That's definitely one of the saddest reigns that Draken will ever have. What's even more sad is because due to his age, Grimm stated Draken would not allow to wrestle in the ring, because if you ever see him wrestle, he would look like that he's about to die in the ring. In which case, Draken would never to be seen in GTS ring. Well, even though he had his forgettable run when he was part of Grimm's heel stable of Legendary. Remember that? Me neither. Before I get to number 1, let me give you an honorable mention. Scratch that. How about I say this? An unhonorable mention. That goes to Joey Ryan. There's not much to say about him, because let me give you some info about him. Even though he was not really a GTS star, Joey Ryan was one of the top indie stars who wrestled in many independent promotions, especially he does one of his ding dong charades as part of his gimmick. For those of you who have paid attention to wrestling news, GTS Grimmania 2020 was supposed to be a live event where Joey would face off against Grimm. Unfortunately, the pandemic era had to ruin us all. What's even worse is that a few months later, the truth has been spoken out, no pun intended, that Joey Ryan would end up facing the allegations of sexual misconduct. There has been at least 18 people who have spoken out against him, which led to a major downfall of his wrestling career. Just like what I said about Mark Adam Haggerty, nobody from the GTS roster, especially Grimm himself, would ever want to work with someone who's being accused during the speaking out movement, especially for being a sexual molester and a sexual abuser. So please do not get your high hopes for a match between Grimm versus Joey Ryan, cause that dream match will never ever happen in any existence in this world. Don't get me wrong, I used to enjoy Joey Ryan's ding dong routine in many of his matches, but since the truth has been spoken out, that's definitely one of my biggest regrets of being a fan of Joey Ryan, especially to this day. I guess this would be the last time I would ever talk about him on this channel, so let's move on. And finally, the number one is Jimmy Rave. Jimmy Rave, one of the wrestling veterans who have ever stepped footed into many major promotions such as Ring of Honor, Dragon Gate, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA Impact Wrestling, CZW, NWA Wildside, and many more. He has been facing some of the biggest names who went on a bigger league. Names like AJ Styles, Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, Johnny Gargano, Christopher Daniels, and Frankie Kazarian. One of his notable trio team in his career was when he teamed with his tag team partner Lance Hoy, aka Lance Archer, accompanied by Christy Hemme. He was also part of the villainous group in ROH known as Scum, alongside with Cliff Compton, aka Domino, Jimmy Jacobs, Kevin Steen, Matt Hardy, Steve Corino, Rhett Titus, and Rhino. For those of you who have remembered watching him in GTS back in 2018, he won the GTS heavyweight title at Extreme Tools. He won the tag team titles with Gabby Gilbert on a random episode of GTS, and he won the United States title at Christmas Chaos. At some point, he was supposed to be part of a storyline program with Mike Swanson and Gabby Gilbert when there was a war between GTS and AWE that would lead up to Grimamania. That never happened, so no explanation why. He would, however, spend more time teaching and wrestling occasionally during the final times in his wrestling career. But on November 29, 2020, Jimmy Rave announced on Twitter that he would be facing a life-changing as he announced his retirement from professional wrestling after having an infection to the left arm, which led to his elbow being amputated. I wanted to say that Jimmy Rave is not only he was a phenomenal wrestler, no offense to AJ Styles, but he's also a great teacher and a mentor to those wrestlers who have been trained by him. I just want to say thank you, Jimmy Rave, and we approved your contribution to professional wrestling. If you are willing to help Jimmy Rave, you can donate on his GoFundMe website page. The link will be in the description below. With that said, that concludes one of the 5 former GTS stars who will not be returning to the brand, unless one of them decides to come back. If there's any other former GTS stars who you might think won't be coming back, leave in the comments section below. Go check out the playlist of 5 ex-GTS stars who will never return to GTS, even though some of them have already made the return. Hey, did you like the video? If you did, click the like button. Just a reminder, don't forget to subscribe and please tap the notification bell so you don't want to miss the new content. As always, stay safe, peace, and cheers.